This morning, I want to do something just a little bit different. I want to talk to you about a broad concept and then make it very, very specific to your own personal journey. One of the interesting things that you find when you open up the scriptures is that there are certain moments that become what could be described as pivotal human intersections, where the choice a person makes affects the future of an innumerable number of people. And in our lives, we will have these kinds of pivotal moments where the choice we make will actually make the world around us better or worse. But more than that, it will give us an opportunity to discover our full capacity and our full potential. And one of the things that is fascinating about the human experience is that if you pay attention, you will actually experience people who have achieved mastery in a certain arena or a certain domain. And even if it's not something you love, you'll probably love the expression of genius or greatness or mastery that they exhibit. When you hear a cellist who has mastery over that instrument, or a guitarist who has mastery over his instrument, or you listen to a physicist or a poet who's attained mastery in their field, there's just something extraordinary about it when you see the best of the best express their art. I wonder how many of us here would be honest enough to say that we would love to be the best. Be the best at something, to be the best of the best. And if there's anything about Los Angeles as a city, so many people come here and they were the best of the best in their world. They were the best of the best in their city, the best of the best. But then they came here and now they're surrounded by the best of the best from places all over the world. And what was once the best looks very average. Then you have to figure out, how do I scale? How do I elevate? How do I now become the best of the best when the best of the best are everywhere, all around me every day? And sometimes it can feel frustrating going, the moment I think I've attained some level of mastery, the moment I think I'm the best in the world, someone else shows up just a little bit better. Which is why it's a terrible thing to spend your life comparing yourself to others. Because so many of us actually have the wrong ambition. We're trying to be the best version of someone else rather than the best version of ourselves. Now, I do not know if you have inside of you the capacity to be the greatest guitar player who ever lived, or the greatest actor who ever lived, or the greatest mathematician who ever lived, or the greatest chess master who ever lived. I don't know that even if you give everything you have, and I know that we're told if you give everything that you can be the best in the world, but the problem is that humans are extraordinary. And you may become the best version of you in a particular discipline, and there might still be someone better than you at it. And of course, that's kind of exciting because it means there's always growth, there's always potential, there's always more to step into. But the one thing I do know that you can be the best in the world at, the one thing that I'm absolutely certain without knowing anything about you, that you can be the best in the world at, is being the best version of you. But the problem is so many of us live our lives trying to be someone else. By the way, that's called envy. We try to be an expression of someone we admire or someone we envy or someone that is aspirational. And so we spend our lives trying to be someone else, and we miss the greatest opportunity we have to be the best version of you, of me. There's this moment in the scriptures in Genesis chapter 4 where God is actually having a conversation with one of us. And he's telling him that this moment will shape the future, not only that they will experience, but the future of who they will become. In Genesis chapter 4, let's look together, beginning in verse 6. God is talking to Cain. He says, "Then the Lord said to Cain, 'Why are you angry? And why is your face gloomy? If you do well, will your face not be cheerful? And if you do not do well, sin is lurking at the door, and its desire is for you. But you must master it. This conversation is terrifying to me. It feels like it should have been written by Stephen King. Because God is having a conversation with Cain, knowing that he's envious of his brother Abel. He's angry because Abel's offering to God was accepted and his was not. And Cain is filled with anger and hatred and vitriol. And God is telling him there's a dynamic going on here, Cain, and you have a choice you need to make. And in the description about his face can be seen as almost too superficial. Why is your face gloomy? And you have the potential of your face being cheerful. What he's actually saying is the choice you're about to make will determine the essence of who you are. And that essence will be expressed in your countenance. Cain, who will you choose to become? And by the way, there's a terrifying sub-narrative here saying sin is lurking at your door and it has a desire for you. He personifies this darkness. Now, the reason the word sin exists in this universe is because you're created with intention. You're created with purpose. You're created from the imagination and mind of God. And there is a beautiful, extraordinary, divine expression of you that is the standard of your existence. And sin is every choice we make that diminishes the image of God in us. Every choice we make where we choose the lesser version of us. And it pulls us. It has a gravitational force that pulls us under. Have you ever noticed that the worst version of you is easy? It just happens naturally. In fact, it's as if there's a magnetic pull. If you jump out of a window, you'd be shocked if you went flying up. You know where you're going. You're going straight down. It's the same way with who you become. When you make a choice, you have to actually make a choice that's going to push you up, but no choice to just take it down. The worst version of you is going to happen without any work. That's why there are no workshops, no seminars, no conferences on how to be the worst version of you. Maybe it would be lucrative, but I could do a 3-day course on how to be lazy. We could start with don't make your bed. But you don't need that. Being lazy just comes kind of naturally. Have you ever wondered, how do I get more depressed? You don't need any coaching there. You do not need a therapist. You don't go in going, I'm just too happy. Like I'm just so full of hope. I don't know what to do with this. I'm going crazy. And there's other people can be sad more naturally than me. They can get discouraged. They can have anxiety, and I don't know how to get there. You do not need anyone to coach you to a panic attack, to anxiety, to depression, to discouragement. All of the worst expressions of us come without any effort at all. It's the best version of us that requires mastery, which is why this is such an important conversation. I want to talk to you about how to gain mastery in your life. And specifically, how to gain self-mastery. There are certain dynamics in mastery that translate to our personal journey. If you are going to gain mastery in any arena, mathematics, physics, chess, art, film, music, whatever it may be, if you're going to gain mastery, you have to have at least 3 different components to that journey. First one is talent. I know some of you thought, I'm already out. If you want to be the best in the world and gain mastery, you have to have talent. Now, here's a challenging thing. You're not in control of how much talent you actually have. Talent is God-given. And if you do not believe in God, talent is genetically predisposed. Talent is the stuff that's in there that you didn't do anything to get. It's just there. It's in a raw material. It's amazing to me how some people are like arrogant that they're tall. You didn't do anything for that. You didn't work for it. You didn't earn it. You know, like when they go, you're like, I'm taller than you because I'm more committed. There's just nothing like that. And some of you actually have your confidence in your talent, which are God-given. And they make you arrogant, that they should actually make you humble because you've been entrusted with something really special. So you have to have a measure of talent. Have you ever dreamed about it being something, but you just didn't have any talent? Not in this room, but I can tell you that I've wanted to be a lot of things that I did not have any talent to become. And when I was young, I wanted to be like a super athlete. I played football, I ran track. I had images of running in the Olympics as a sprinter. I had images of playing in the NFL. Nobody told me Latinos don't really make it to the NFL. And that I was playing the wrong football. There were just so many things I missed in the nuances of athleticism. But very, very quickly I realized I did not have the raw talent to be the best in the world. No matter how hard I worked, no matter what I did, it just wasn't really going to happen at that level. It's a challenging thing, especially when you meet people who are not self-aware. I've met so many people who were certain that their gifting in life was to sing. Wow. And you are so gifted to sing in the shower. And it's probably the only place you should sing, and except maybe when others are singing. But there are people who believe that they have more talent than they actually have. They lack an awareness of the amount of talent they have, and it's unfair. I know I'm not supposed to say that you might be less talented than someone else, but here's real life. There are people who have more inherent talent than you do to do the same thing. And you don't have control over that. And looking back, I realized I wanted to be great at certain things. I wanted to be an artist. That's a problem when you can't paint. I wanted to be a musician. It's harder when you can't sing. There are just so many things I wanted to be that the raw material just was not there. And so when people say, pursue your passions, one of the problems is sometimes our passions are actually someone else's talent. So you have to pay attention to this. You may not have the talent to pursue every expression of mastery in every domain, but here's one thing I do know. You have all the talent necessary to become the best version of you. So if you want to make sure you're the best in the world at something, be the best version of you. But if you're trying to be someone else, you're going to be at best the second best version of you. Because if you're trying to be someone else, you cannot be the best in the world. You do not have the inherent talent to be someone else. So stop trying to be anyone else. Stop envying someone else's life, someone else's talent, someone else's journey, and pursue becoming the best version of who you were created to become. Because you have all the inherent talent to be that person, but that talent, when it deals with personal development, is called character. But how do you unlock that talent? If inside of you is all the material necessary to become the most fully human expression of you possible, that the image of God actually dwells in you, that you could be a beautiful expression of God's imagination. Can you imagine that? That your life could be the perfect expression of God's daydreams about who you could be and how you could live and the world you could create. That to me is so exciting. God, I just want to be a full expression of your imagination, because I don't think I could imagine my life as big as you can imagine my life. And I have a pretty big imagination. But the challenge of it is that there's almost like this tension. I don't agree with Walt Disney. If you can dream it, you can do it. I can dream way better than I can do. I've dreamed up a lot of things I can do, but I can't do them. So I know that not everything I dream I can do. But I also know that everything I don't dream, I won't do. So there's this tension. Yes, I can dream things I cannot do. But if I don't dream, I will not do everything I'm created to do. But how do you unlock that talent? How do you break out of a ceiling that makes you look like you have less talent than you have? Well, you have to have another aspect to this, and it's called process. You don't just need talent to become a master. You have to embrace the right process. Now, one of the interesting things about process is that a process is a specific series of actions that produce the desired result. But a lot of times we don't really know the right process for the right outcome. We actually do the wrong thing to try to get a different outcome in life. I remember when I was at the end of high school, I had a friend who went on to college, and he went on to get a tennis scholarship at a college. And I always thought, he's not very manly. He should be playing football. And he came back from college and he said, hey, come play tennis. I said, I don't play tennis. I don't do tennis. I do masculine things. And he said to me, Erwin, you're not going to play football all your life. You're going to play tennis all your life. I said, never. I love tennis. And I played last week. It's just an incredible sport. It takes a real man. And but at that time in my life, I just thought, that's not really a sport. And I remember the first time I ever picked up a racket. We had one of those Jimmy Connors. I think it was like a T1000 or something like that, made out of wood. Had about this much circumference for the ball. And the first time we ever played together, I aced him like 20 or 30 times. It was just so natural. He goes, you should do this. I'm like, no, it's not for me. But since I started winning, I thought, maybe it's for me. And then I found a really safe way, surefire way to keep winning. I played with bad people. And so I just kept playing people who were worse than me, and I was awesome. I just won all the time. You don't play tennis? Great, let's go. And so I created an elevated sense of self playing tennis. But then I met a friend who played semi-professional tennis on the tour. And of course, he destroyed me, but I did ace him like 15, 20 times. He said, hey, you're doing it all wrong. I said, you're just mad that I aced you. He goes, no, you could be so much better, but your ceiling is really low. You have more talent than you're exhibiting because you chose the wrong process. If you'll let me break you down, I'll teach you how to hold a racket. I'll teach you how to serve. I'll teach you how to hit a backhand. I'll teach you how to hit a forehand. And he made me worse. He was the worst coach in the world for weeks and weeks and months until I was able to turn the corner, because when you learn the wrong process, the right process feels wrong. It's the same way in your character transformation. Have you ever wondered why you can't change? Anyone here? Have you had addictions in your life, or struggles in your life, or character weaknesses or flaws in your life, and you just can't figure out why you keep going back to the same patterns over and over again? It's because you've chosen the wrong process for transformation. And even when you're looking at, how do I become a more deeply spiritual human being? How do I make a deeper connection to God? And you just keep going back to the same place you were before. It's mostly because we were taught the wrong process for how to grow deeply in our relationship with God. Well, I think a lot of times is we don't have any process. I can tell you without any doubt, no matter how incredible the worship is today, no matter how life-changing the message might be today, if this is all you do to connect to God, you will never connect to God deeply. You'll keep having these momentary, ecstatic experiences with God, and you'll confuse that with intimacy with God. Because if you only come here once a week or once a month, and then have no dynamic relationship with God throughout the week, you will not change. There is nothing I could ever teach you or show you or pour into you that will change your inner world until you begin to embrace a process that changes you from the inside out. And I use the word process because we don't like the word discipleship. But that's what discipleship is. It's the process for life change that takes you from where you are to where God created you to be. That takes you from your broken expression of self to the expression of who you look like when you connect to Jesus. And I'm really grateful because early on, people gave me a great process. And I went through the process because I'd never tried following God, so I didn't have a wrong approach. In other words, I didn't grow up in church. Some of you grew up in church and you have the wrong process for connecting with God. I grew up really irreligious, so I was a really good candidate. So I'm 20 years old, and they give me a Bible. It's the King James. It was really hard to understand. But they gave me a simple process. They said, talk to God every day. What do I say? Whatever is on your heart. And just talk to God. Yeah, but listen. So they gave me right away a 2-step process. I didn't know it was prayer. If I knew it was prayer, I think I would have been nervous. They said, talk to God, listen to God. Tell God what you're feeling. Pay attention to an inner voice that might be speaking to you. And so I just started talking to God. And frankly, this is in college. And by the time I got to seminary to get my master's degree, they taught me in a class, God no longer speaks directly to us. He only speaks to us through the Bible. And I went, I think it's too late. I've been listening to God for 2 years. He talks all the time, if you listen. And so immediately I began listening for the voice of God. I began developing a process where I would talk to God constantly and I would listen constantly. And I would expect there to be an intimate intersection between me and God. But something else happened. They told me to memorize the Bible, but they were very strategic. They gave me these little cards. They gave me verses to learn. And I didn't know what they were doing. They were actually transforming the internal structure of my mind. I didn't understand that. I thought I was just memorizing Bible verses. They were changing the way I saw reality. They were changing the way I thought. I still remember one of the first verses I ever saw. It was so exciting. This woman, Barbara Perry, she actually cross-stitched a verse for me on this little thing. And it was personalized, so I thought I was in the Bible. It was Philippians 4:13, and it said, Erwin can do all things through Christ which strengthens him. First of all, I was so excited. I'm in there. This is like awesome. But she personalized it, and it changed the way I thought. I was this insecure, introverted, shy, fearful, timid person. And all of a sudden, I have this mental framework branded into my brain. Erwin, not just God. I knew God could do anything. I'm being told Erwin can do all things, not some things, but all things through Christ, which strengthens him. And I thought this changed my mind. It changed the way I saw life. It changed the way I entered any room. It changed the way I encountered people. It changed the way I faced danger. It changed the way I stepped into risk. It changed everything about me because I embraced a process that changed my inner thinking. See, some of you are trying to change the way you think without changing the way you think. You have to put something new inside of you if you want to have a new mind, a new perspective, a new faith. And they told me other things. They said, talk to everyone about Jesus. And I didn't realize almost nobody does. So I just did. And I discovered that I lived in a very open world that people were desperately searching for spiritual connection. And then they told me to find community, get around people, because that's a part of the process. One of the most significant things in the process of transformation is who you spend time with. Some of you are here, but you're just in a crowd. You're not in a community yet. You come week after week after week, but you're disconnected. And you need to understand that humans do not change in isolation. Humans change through human connection. You are going to become the sum total of the people in your life. So look around, because the people you pick to do life with, they are the best mirror of who you are. Are any of you frustrated with your friends because they have no ambition? Look in the mirror. Any of you frustrated with your friends because they lack direction? Look in the mirror. Any of you wish some of your friends actually were deeply committed to their faith? Look in the mirror. Because your friends are the mirror of you. And if you're not already like them, you will become like them. So if you want to have greater intention in your life, surround yourself with people with high intention. If you want to make great sacrifices for big dreams, then be around people who make great sacrifices for big dreams. If you want to live a life of mastery, then get around people who are choosing to fight for mastery in their life. Because the human connection is a part of the process of transformation. There is a reason why Jesus brought 12 people together, not just one. And even with those 12, one of them didn't even make it to the end of the first chapter of the story. But it was Peter, John, and James. See, it was almost impossible to say Peter's name without John's name, without James's name. It was Martha and Mary. It was almost impossible to separate people, because the life that God created you to live was never intended to be lived alone. The reason we do the hard work of creating Mosaic is because the life change you long for cannot happen in isolation. It can only happen in community. But you have to decide to open your life to people. If you're going to gain mastery in your life, you have to be aware of the talent that's inside of you, but then realize that if you don't engage in the right process, it will show up as a lack of talent. But then there's one other thing that you have to have. And this may be, for me, the most important one, and it's obsession. People who achieve anything great in life, people who attain mastery in any domain in life, have an obsession for greatness. They have an obsession for mastery. They have an obsession for the process that extracts their talent and executes a level of greatness that other people think is unattainable. Let me tell you a secret. A lot of times I think people perceive that the dividing line of people is talent. High talent people and low talent people. And high talent people don't choose low talent people. And low talent people want to be around high talent people, but they don't get chosen by them. But that's not really the divide. The divide is high obsession people to no obsession people. People who are obsessed with living life fully eventually find no room for people who have no obsession to live life fully. They just don't want to be around people who want to exist. They want to be around people who want to live. This has always been a little tricky for me. Because when we started Mosaic, I had this tension. Because church is for everyone. It is. Anyone who wants to come, just come. You can come once a year. In fact, we have people come once a year and go, oh yeah, I go to Mosaic. Oh yeah, it's great. They're, once a year is like their optimal performance. Like I'm in, you know. And then they'll wonder later why they didn't change. I mean, some of you come once a month. whether you need to or not. And you come once a month, and you hope that's somehow going to bring the change that you long for. But I can tell you that if you are in the gym once a week, and the rest of the week you're at Roscoe's, and that's some awesome chicken and waffles, I'm telling you, you're going to be happier at Roscoe's. But not in a year. Because in a year, you're going to be wondering, why didn't I achieve any of my goals? I went to the gym that hour every Sunday. And it didn't change me. The gym clearly doesn't work. My trainer is clearly lying to me. You know the question I hate for my trainer? What did you eat? Stay out of my business. You're here to tell me what machines I should use. I remember one time this friend named Joe White, we were sitting at a dinner table, we're talking about being fit and getting healthy, and he was jacked. And he said, Erwin, you know what the most important exercise is to get rid of your gut? I said, what is it, Joe? And he pushed the tray of food away. It's push-outs. I said, thank you, Joe. Thank you for that encouraging word. But there's some people who are obsessed with certain goals. And you know what's funny? They're the easiest people to hate. Don't you just hate people who are obsessed with something that you know you should be better at? It's so irritating when people are obsessed with being the best in the world in any domain. And this is the challenge here, is that people said to me, Erwin, this is church. You shouldn't be calling people to be obsessed. But I am. Because I do not know how much time I have here on earth. And I want to be around people who are obsessed with being the best version of themselves. If you just want to cruise through life, I'm going to make this the most uncomfortable space in the world for you. If you just want to be average, I'm going to make this really hard. If you want to gravitate to the bottom of your own selves, you're not going to be happy here. Because we're going to call the greatness out of you. We're going to demand that you take personal responsibility for the talent God has placed inside of you. And we're going to invite you to take on the hard process of becoming the person God created you to be and to become obsessive about it. Because obsession is the combination of passion for the hard work that creates discipline to be great. When you are obsessed, you will pay any price necessary to get to your outcome. Then it makes sense to me why Jesus said, you cannot follow me unless you first take up your cross, unless you first die to yourself. Do you hear that language? That is obsessive language. What Jesus is actually saying is, you cannot experience the fullness of what I've created you to experience if you just follow me casually. This is not a journey for people who are just interested. The life that God created you to live is a life that consumes you with a passion to be fully alive. How many moments in your life did you not even show up? How many days will you look back on and realize, man, I just wasn't even there. I just existed. When are you going to wake up to realize you never get those days back? What can I say to shake you enough for you wake up tomorrow saying, this day is a gift. And I have an opportunity to live fully present, to be fully alive. to extract out of this moment everything that God has for me. I will not survive. I will not exist. I'm going to live. So I'm just going to tell you the truth. I am obsessed with becoming the person God created me to become. I'm obsessed to not live a lesser version of me than the one God imagined when he created me. I am obsessed with sucking all of the life that every moment has. And I'm obsessed with the possibility that all of us could live this way. And that's why Jesus died. He didn't die on a cross so that you would be okay. He didn't die on a cross so that you could exist or be average or ordinary. He died on that cross and rose from the dead to awaken in you the image of God so that you could become the most extraordinary expression of you. And when you are fully alive, when you're fully alive, you can't see people the same anymore. Because when you're fully alive, you realize how dead people are. When you're fully alive, you realize how broken they are. When you're fully alive, you realize how people are just sucking wind and barely breathing and holding on to their existence. When you're fully alive, you realize how desperately people need Jesus. And so I think the reason we need to pursue self-mastery is because when we become the God-imagined version of us, we become a light in dark places. We become the living among the dead. We become a source of hope, a source of love, a source of joy, a source of faith for others. God spoke to Cain and said, "This moment is yours. You'll look back and you're going to blame it on me, Cain. But this moment is yours. You have in your power the future. You have in your power who you will become. Choose well." I wonder how many times God has placed us in that pivotal human intersection and has said to you, this is your moment. This is the moment you get to choose. By the way, the shape of your character is the shape of your future. And the most powerful spiritual act in your life is to choose. Because the choices you make today create the future you will live in tomorrow. So, if you want to be on a spiritual journey, the most spiritual thing that you will do is not to pray. It's not to fast. It's not to meditate. It's not to read the Bible, not to memorize scripture, not to go to church. The most spiritual thing you will ever do is to choose. Because you choose to pray, and you choose to fast, and you choose to serve, and you choose to give, and you choose to live. And that's why even to Joshua and the people of Israel, God said, I lay before you a choice between life and death. The choice is yours to make. Would you bow your heads with me just for a moment? The choice is yours to make. The choice that God waits for is the moment you would choose him. The moment you would choose to put your life in the hands of Jesus. Following Jesus isn't a casual experience or endeavor. I want to be so clear. I'm not asking you just to start believing in Jesus. I am asking you to become obsessed with the person God created you to become and to give your life completely, insanely, obsessively to Jesus. To trust him with your relationships, to trust him with your future, to trust him with your fears and doubts and your hopes and dreams, and to live a life where Jesus is the epicenter of your existence. Because only then does he work the way he promises to work. So if you're here and you're ready to follow Jesus, you're ready to cross the line of faith, you know inside of your soul this is what you've longed for. It's all in. It's all in. It's everything. It's no apprehension, no hesitation. It's no conditions, no compromise, no negotiations. It's Jesus, I give you my life. I will follow you completely. And if that's your desire today, I want to ask you to take an extra step today. I want you to feel the obsession of this commitment, of this journey towards self-mastery, of becoming who God created you to be. If you're here and you're saying, Jesus, I will give you all of my life to become everything you created me to be. If you're in this moment, would pray, Jesus, I give you my life. Right now, just tell him, Jesus, I give you my life. Jesus, I give you my life. If that's your prayer, if that's your declaration, if that's your choice, I want you to stand right now, and I want to pray for you. Beautiful. Jesus, I give you my life. Just stand, don't look around. This is between you and God. Jesus, I give you my life. To be consumed completely by his love. To follow him relentlessly. Anyone else, Jesus, I give you my life. Beautiful. Jesus, I give you my life. I'm going to pray for you. Is there anyone else who needs to stand? Your heart's pounding. You know God's speaking to you. This is your moment. Beautiful. Anyone else? Don't miss this moment. This is a pivotal human intersection for you. This is your moment. Beautiful. People just keep standing, so I'm just going to give you another second. Anyone else? Beautiful. Beautiful. I'm going to pray, but you can keep standing while I pray. Beautiful. People just keep standing. You may be watching from all over the world. If you're in your living room, stand up right now, if that's you, wherever you are right now. Don't miss this moment. Beautiful. Still others, still others, still others, still others. Father, thank you for each person that in this moment made that courageous choice to open their lives to you. They would cross that line of faith and say, I give you everything, Jesus. I trust you with my life. God, I pray that right now you would just wrap them up in your love and let them know that they belong to you, that you will never leave them or abandon them, that even when things are hard, you will be so close to them. You'll carry them through when they cannot walk. You'll lift them up when they fall. God, I thank you for each one of them, that today was that pivotal human intersection where the choice they made is you, is life, is hope. We thank you. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Let's just thank God for all those who respond to him. Thank you guys so much. So much. You can be seated. Thank you so much. You guys can have a seat. Pastor Carlos is going to come, but even as he comes, some of you have invited Jesus into your life in the past, and you're not obsessed. You're just kind of been casual. I just want to challenge you to use this moment to make a pivotal decision in your life, to make Jesus your all, your everything, to trust him with your future. This is why we're here. We love you.